Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us for our second town hall meeting for this academic year. And this afternoon, as you know, we've got a number of panelists. We'll take some time to make some presentations and then leave time for Q&As. And I know some people have already sent their questions down on cards, so fill out the cards if you like, or we'll take questions from the floor as well. Let me introduce to you the members of the panel who will be joining me up here shortly in regard to giving a presentation and then covering questions being asked. And that's Vice President Borchers, the Vice President of Academic Affairs, Pat. Dan Berkey, the Senior Vice President for Operations, Dan. Tanya Weingard, the Associate Vice President of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Tanya. And now to lead us in prayer is Carol Zugner, the class of 1977. You're young, Carol. Associate Professor, Journalism, Media, and Computing. Carol?
I was very young when I came to college. So let's all quiet ourselves, as our Jesuit friends say. This is a prayer that I actually borrowed from a law school colleague when I was in the Jesuit seminar last year. So it has a good, and it's adapted by John Veltri, S.J. Teach me to listen, O God, to those nearest me, my family, my friends, my coworkers. Help me to be aware that no matter what words I hear, the message is, accept the person I am. Listen to me. Teach me to listen, my caring God, to those far from me, the whisper of the hopeless, the plea of the forgotten, the cry of the anguished. Teach me to listen, O God, my mother, to myself. Help me to be less afraid to trust the voice inside, in the deepest part of me. Teach me to listen, Holy Spirit, for your voice, in busyness and in boredom, in certainty and in doubt, in noise and in silence. Teach me, Lord, to listen. Amen.
Thank you, Carol. Also, an introduction of a new colleague who's in her third day in a very important position. That's Carol Ash. Carol, where are you? You here? Stand to be welcomed by us. Welcome to Creighton University. Carol is the Associate Vice President for Marketing at the University in a new position. So again, welcome to Creighton, Carol. It's great to have you back with us on campus. This afternoon, I'd like to take some time to talk about a number of things, and so let's proceed with the slides. The topics I want to address are the priorities for this academic year, 2012-2013, as well as some information about the planning process at the university, and also a little about the Board of Trustees Planning Committee. So with the priorities are meant to guide us, at least the administration, during this academic year, especially while we're still working on the strategic plan. So these are the priorities that we, and I as president, see as being important for us this academic year. And so the first priority is to continue to take advantage of the possibilities of our partnership with Allegiant. And again, from my point of view, and I think we would all agree, this has been an historic moment for this university with the partnership that we do have with Allegiant, and now, of course, the name of Allegiant Creighton Health and Allegiant Creighton Clinic. And my thanks to Dr. Zetterman and Dr. Fry and so many of you, Dan Berkey and others who really have made this a possibility for us on the Creighton side. The second is, as you saw the announcement that I shared with the committee yesterday, the Board of Trustees met in a special meeting on Monday to consider two capital projects, and those capital projects will commence now soon. One involving the repurposing of 100,000 square feet of space on our campus that will impact our College of Arts and Sciences, our College of Business, as well as student life. And the second project is the construction project of the athletic training and practice facility, and I'll say more about that in a minute, and Dan Berkey will have even more details about it after I finish with my comments. The next is to conduct an asset mapping process, and that is to take a look at what we're doing at the university in terms of innovative programs, whether it be in a division or department, and how those innovations might be incorporated throughout the university. So, for example, in student life, there's a wonderful program in regard to leadership development. And more we're talking about, on our part, that when our students graduate from our place, from this university, we want them to really be well-prepared leaders. And so using perhaps some of the things that have been done in student life and involving that throughout the university in terms of leadership formation. So again, it's identifying what we're doing taking advantage of what we're doing and perhaps introducing it and sharing it with other areas of the university. The financial review model, this is very important. It may not seem important to you, but trust me, once we get into the details of this, it will be a little bloody, to be honest. This is a financial review model that tracks where tuition dollars go, so either the College of Arts and Sciences or the College of Business, various respective departments, and also, too, it tracks expenses, not only direct expenses, which we do quite well now, but we've been challenged, as are most organizations, in regard to what's the actual cost of educating a student here. That is the direct expenses and indirect expenses. And so Jan Mattson with Dan Berkey and others are working on this with their colleagues, and we expect to have a financial review model approved and in place by the end of this academic year. The planning process, as you know, is going well, not as quickly as I would like, but that's to be expected. My thanks to so many of you, over 120 colleagues who are involved with the 9 task forces, superb leadership, and also some great ideas. Those ideas have been reviewed by the planning committee, and again, we've got a very dynamic document that's going to change even more so, and I'm going to show you the 4 current goals, but also to let you know those goals may change again as we go forward. But it's so important for us to complete this process and to provide for us a sense of direction for this university for the next 3, 4, and 5 years. Next, and Carol Ash is involved with this, and that is to finalize the restructuring of marketing communications and launch the branding process for the university. We, as you may know, just did a market survey conducted by Simpson Scarborough, where they examined, by talking with prospective students and parents and current students and alums, to get a sense of where we are and how we're perceived in the marketplace. And so we've got a very good understanding of that perception through this process. Now we need to work with a creative agency to help us begin to brand us in a way that's true university-wide, so that we can be with this consistent brand and a consistent marketing message on our part to really demonstrate to people what we're about at Creighton University. Next is launching at least aspects of the EDGE program, and Pat Borchers will talk more about that. The EDGE program is something that's, I think, very creative and will be very productive. But also, too, we need to involve the faculty more in aspects of this program, and we intend to do that. But there's some parts of the program that Pat will talk about today that I think are real doable and forward with that. The climate survey, one issue for us at this university, we've not done a good job with the follow-up on climate surveys, and I intend as president to make sure that we do that. And as you know, I think from communications from me, that we've asked various areas and various colleagues to do some focus groups to help identify particular issues surfaced by the climate survey, so that we in turn can make some adjustments to make this an even finer and better place to work and to educate our students and to care for our patients. Now, the issue is we can't solve all of our problems overnight, but we certainly can begin to identify those issues that we can rectify and turn around and move forward to other possibilities. Advanced web, this is probably more than you want to know, but we need to refine and improve our database and our way of technology in university relations, and this will help us tremendously. It's a very powerful software package that will make a tremendous amount of difference for us, for our fundraisers, for alumni relations, and for all of our colleagues in university relations. Now, the planning process. You may recall I introduced to the community about 7 goals at the beginning of this process. These are the goals that I had identified, the cabinet deans had identified, and through the planning process and with a number of meetings and conversations taking place involving both the University Planning Committee as well as the Board Planning Committee, this is, as I said a moment ago, a very dynamic document. So the changes will continue until we really get to where we think it's correct, at least on the part of the University Planning Committee and the Board Planning Committee. So goal 1 is right where you can see it, to really leverage the uniqueness of this university, our strengths and assets, across the board in undergraduate, professional, and graduate education, and in turn to invest in those programs. And I've said that from the very beginning, that we need to invest more fully and more completely in the academic programs, and we need to find the dollars to do that. But we need to really, to establish us as a great university, which we are, but also to be able to show people that there's something special and different about us. And we need to be attentive to that because, as we all know, you're reading the same things in the popular press as I am, and some of us are reading issues that are in the professional journals in regard to higher ed. We really need to be about showing people, proving to people that the value of this education is right there, and that we are special and that we are different, and to be able to demonstrate that. To say nothing about the great Jesuit Catholic education that we provide to our students in whatever programs they might be in. The second is to begin to look at those programs that we find to be innovative and core to who we are, core to our mission, core to Creighton, in the academic area, student life area, all faculty programs, and again, to invest in such a way that will improve those areas and again differentiate us from other schools, including perhaps and ideally other Jesuit schools. Goal 3, and this could be a source of heartburn for some, I hope it won't be, but we need to always be on the lookout for efficiencies at the university, especially in regard to non-productive and redundant administrative and operational expenditures and inefficiencies. And we need to identify those and address those issues, because every dollar makes a world of difference for providing the resources for our mission. And fourth is to broaden Creighton's revenue portfolio. All of these right now, these 4 goals have initiatives behind them, which I'll share with you perhaps sometime after the next meeting of the Planning Committee, which is later this month. In addition, the Planning Committee asked for the committee to address our mission being specific as Jesuit and Catholic. And so my thanks to Eileen Burke-Sullivan, Tanya Weingart, and John Pierce, who took that task on and submitted to me, which in turn I'll submit to the Planning Committee, that new goal and the initiatives behind that. So again, I'm not ready to share that yet, but I want to share it first with the Planning Committee. So my thanks to those 3 colleagues that made that possible. So those are the 4 strategic goals. Academic structure, my thanks. Is Dr. Zetterman here? When you see Dr. Zetterman, thank him for his service to this university. 4 years of outstanding leadership and service. And let me just review again what Rowan has done for our School of Medicine. Increase the size of our School of Medicine to about 152 students. The opening of our Phoenix campus, the education of M3s and M4s in our Phoenix campus, the affiliation with Allegiant, the reaccreditation of the Liaison Committee for Medical Education. He's developed wonderful relationships with our alums, and he has raised a considerable amount of money for support for endowed scholarships in our School of Medicine, and has done an outstanding. Let's thank him for his leadership and work on behalf of Creighton. He'll be leaving the university at the end of this calendar year. I've begun a process of listening currently to our colleagues and friends in the School of Medicine. So on Monday morning, I met with the chairs of the departments of the School of Medicine, and every chair was there. A very productive meeting and helpful, I thought, on my part, asking them to list the attributes for the interim dean. And also, too, when I left, I asked them to do something that the Jesuits do when they're electing a new general, and that is to murmuratio, to murmur about who might be among the colleagues in medicine or outside of the School of Medicine, who might be a good interim dean. And so at this point, I'm getting a lot of recommendations from at least the chairs. Tomorrow I meet with the entire faculty at 5 o'clock. I'll also be meeting with the direct reports to the dean, the associate deans and assistant deans, and I've invited to the student body of the School of Medicine to meet with me to listen to them talk about, again, the attributes for an interim dean, as well as maybe suggestions, but I don't want suggestions to be named in the meetings, but inviting suggestions to be sent to me via email. And so it's a process that I want to take some time to listen to people about this. More than likely, I'll announce, or Don Fry will announce who the interim dean is, perhaps by the end of this month, but to have somebody in place, ideally, of course, and with assurance by January 1st. The provost search, I could not be more happy. Vicki Roach is the chair of the committee and has done an outstanding job, and the committee really worked overtime last week. They met with 10 candidates. Of the pool that they looked at, they extended invitations to 10. One person declined, as I think I might have mentioned to some of you. One person declined because of a family issue where the spouse did not want to relocate. And so they went to an alternate. So again, they saw 10 candidates last week with a lot of time devoted to not only meeting with the candidates, but then also processing their conversations with the candidates. Because, as you know, we all look differently in person as we do on paper, and so that's what that process did. The committee is going to forward to me, and they have unofficially at this point, recommendations of the finalists. So there'll be probably 3 finalists, could be 4, but probably 3 finalists that will be invited to be on our campus in November, giving all of you and others a chance to meet with these individuals and to provide feedback. We'll have a feedback process for you to let us know what you think about these candidates. And again, I'll meet after that point with the search committee and to listen to their recommendations and eventually make it. The person more than likely will not begin until the summer of 2013, but I'll keep you informed about that as well, and we'll give you the details in regard to these candidates being on campus in November. This is something different, and I know most people, including all of us here at Creighton, don't do well with change, because I know we have traditions. But I do, and there's been a group of people that worked on this, and I certainly support their recommendation. The group has suggested this. Since I've talked about, and we have all talked about, being one Creighton, one university, I think it's important for us to honor our colleagues and the faculty and staff for their years of service as a complete group and not in separate occasions, as we've done in the past. So on December 11th, there'll be 2 events. They're different, but related. 2 events. Early in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock or maybe earlier, there'll be an event to recognize our colleagues for their service to the university, both from the faculty and staff, beginning with those having been here 5 years and then going with increments of 5 years after that. Then later in the day, about 4 o'clock, we will have a university-wide Christmas celebration, and that's an occasion for all of us to come together. And you're welcome to do whatever you want to do in your departments and colleges and divisions. But I've made it pretty clear that I don't want university dollars spent on that. You can do a potluck, whatever you want to do. But I want, and the committee recommends, and I support it, that we have one big gathering for all of us. And one thing I've heard a lot is that we don't gather enough, and ideally, these town hall meetings are meant to do that, and this event on December 11th is meant to do this. So it's one Creighton celebrating together this December. So please mark your calendars, and I'll send you more information about this. Dan Berkey will talk more about this, but as you saw my communication to you and to all of us on the campus, at the Board of Trustees at our meeting on Monday have approved these 2 projects. The total investment is $27 million in terms of the projects, and at this point we've raised $26 million in terms of cash on hand and pledges in place. Now, with the pledges in place, there's a timing issue in regard to when we receive those dollars. So we will take out what I would call a bridge loan for a 3 or 4 or 5 year period for $5 million. And as you all know, the cost of borrowing money is minimal these days, and so that's the plan, and that was a plan approved by our board. Why move so quickly? Well, one is with the repurposing of Harper and also renovating 7 other buildings on our campus, it's a logistics challenge, and the sooner we get this thing started, the better off we're going to be. And we need to begin the process with that in mind soon. Additionally, most of the dollars have been raised. There's more money that needs to be raised for this project involving the College of Business, the College of Arts and Sciences, and Student Life, especially for additional dollars to support the efforts of the College of Business in regard to faculty development. Further, as I've mentioned at the last town hall meeting, we were able to raise, and actually it was raised by Ron Gartland, a member of our board, and Bruce Rasmussen, the dollars to pay for this new facility, for the practice and training facility. And so the dollars are in place for the most part. And the timing is off in a way with the timing of the payment of the pledges, but again, the money is there. So the fundraising continues, but I feel assured, the leadership team feels assured, the board certainly feels assured, it's time to begin these projects. And the projects, I think, and I know benefit so many of us, because among other things, it will pretty much locate the College of Arts and Sciences on the central core of the campus, and that's never happened, I don't think, even with the dean's office locating in Epley. And so we'll have this, in a sense, quadrangle where the College of Arts and Sciences pretty much will be located with all the various departments. And it brings academics and student services to the core of the campus. And it treats this eastern part of the campus with the athletic facility as the master plan is called for. And also, too, we're able to address some deferred maintenance items with these projects. Now, one thing we did do, and my thanks to John Wilhelm and others, we finally have a document here that identifies the deferred maintenance, that is those areas that need some working because of age. So we've got a plan to begin to go after those issues as well. But these projects will cover some of those issues. Certainly not all of them because the price tag is enormous, but at least we'll make a nice dent on that. So I'm excited about this and looking very much forward to it. So let me have Dan Berkey come up here, and he'll talk for a couple minutes, and then Pat Borges and Tanya, and then we'll have time for questions. So, Dan?
Okay, thanks, Father Lannon. I'm going to spend a little bit of time going into some specifics on this project, on the overall campus development projects and the two elements of that, and give you a little sense of what you can expect to be seeing going forward, and then also let you know that we will have information up on a website that we'll be creating that will keep you posted on the progress, give you ideas on the schedule coming forward, and we'll also put some design sketches and things up as we have them available. So I'll start with the Harper Center design. Basically, the work is going to occur. There'll be some work occurring on each level. A fair amount of it will be in the lobby and the main entrance and lobby area. You'll see a configuration of that. So the entrance in the building, the big difference here is you notice underneath that overhang in the main entrance area, that will be enclosed. They'll become part of a new entrance to the building. And what that will do is provide an opportunity once you're inside the building, you'll see on this next slide, for kind of a grand entrance reception area and an information desk to greet you right as you come in the building. The other thing that will do is it opens up that main entry area to provide a signature spot for one of the key elements of the College of Business program, which will be our investment training center, our simulation center. So that will be something that you see, and you know, these are the initial sketches. Will probably look a little different than this, but that'll be a signature piece when you come into the front of the building that will be visible to folks and signify that the College of Business is there in the building. The other pieces of the project are really up on the second and third floors of the building where the academic program will be located, the dean's offices, faculty offices, and also the classroom spaces up on the fourth floor. So that's the key elements of the Harper Center work. As Father mentioned, there are a host of other buildings that will be impacted by this project. We're going to have, it'll be a real logistical challenge for sure, but we've got a fairly extensive phasing schedule that has been worked with the representatives from the affected areas, and we'll continue to refine. But just to give you a quick idea, see in Brandeis Hall we have a number of changes. Ultimately, the registrar's office will be located in that facility. Creighton Hall will have student life on the second floor. As Father mentioned, the dean's office suite will be going into the Epley building, and John Cernich's and his folks' office will be in that second floor area. International programs to the third floor. And then in the library, we have some work being done to accommodate the EDGE program and also the EDD program. If you move over to the Epley building, as I mentioned, the Arts and Sciences Dean's Office. We also have education and math departments, the Walsh Lecture Hall, which has basically been mothballed for a number of years due to accessibility issues related to ADA. Will become a home for the Energy Technology program, which has been a very, very successful new program. We also have work being done in the Humanities and Hitchcock Communications buildings. Again, more College of Arts and Sciences departments. So if you look at the amount of space that's going to be affected, this is a significant effort, as you could tell, 100,000 square feet in total. Just to give you a little perspective, this building here is a little over 200,000 square feet total. So it's about half of the volume of this building will be affected in these various locations. So a lot of work and planning will need to go into this to make it come off smoothly. I want to give you a sense on the construction schedule as well for this project. It'll be obviously done in phases. I mentioned a lot of logistics involved in this, and I think one thing we can guarantee is there will be disruptions and inconveniences. It's just going to happen. We're going to try and minimize that to the extent possible, and we're also going to try and compress the schedule as much as we can to minimize that disruption to activities. But as Father mentioned, when we get through this process, which we hope to be no later than the middle of 2014, we're going to have some really fine spaces for our academic programs in the College of Business and Arts and Sciences, as well as upgraded spaces for student life. On to the athletic facility. And one thing I want to point out here, too, is it kind of gets lost in the mix here, but a sizable component of that facility includes the academic support operation, which is currently in the Bernardi Center, which will also be moving down along with the men's basketball practice facility and the weight training for all athletes. So it's a new facility that will be located across the mall to the south of the Ryan and Sokol Arena. As I mentioned, include the athletic training and weight room, and that will be for all programs, coaches, administrative offices, and then, of course, the academic support center. Father alluded to this earlier. When we did our master plan back in 2003, one of the things that we wanted to try and do was preserve the core part of the campus for our key academic functions, move the recreation and athletic activities off to the east end of the campus. And this gets us a long way there. The ball fields eventually we'd like to see move from the current location immediately to the west of us here. But this gets us a long way down the road to accomplishing that part of our master plan. Again, freeing up space in the Bernardi Center and the old gym for future use for academics. As far as the construction goes, the project, actually there's a meeting this afternoon to get things moving with a contractor and design firm on this. I mentioned the location. What you'll see is something that looks a lot like the Ryan Center, the Rasmussen Center, the new construction that we've had on the east side of the campus. So one of the other things we did in the master plan was to set some design standards that we would use, not so that every building looks exactly the same, but you could tell that by the fabric that's involved that it's part of the Creighton campus, and I think you can expect to see that played out in this building as well. Approximate size, 34 to 38,000 square feet. That'll be refined as we go through the design process. And then the completion date on that would be the spring of 2014. We'll see if we could do some things to speed that one up as well. But that's the current the timeline. Okay, different subject. Health benefits. If you've seen some information recently coming out from Human Resources related to our enrollment process, and you'll see continuing to get reminders on that. But I think the one thing we want to keep reminding, I have to remind myself this as well, that it's about cultural wellness. We need to encourage all of our employees to take better care of themselves. Obviously, there's a benefit to that from a health plan standpoint, but certainly from an individual standpoint. More emphasis on wellness is good for not only from a productivity standpoint, but also just a personal wellness and health standpoint. The Simply Well program is free, and it's available to all employees, regardless of whether you're enrolled in our health plan or not. We did experience a premium increase for this coming year. It's up about 5%. If you remember back, it's probably been about 5 years since we've had an increase in our health plan. So we've been very fortunate and also, I think, reaping some benefits from our focus on wellness and keeping our costs down. The dental and vision plans will not see an increase, so that's encouraging. And then again, benefits fair coming up and enrollment information, you'll be seeing more about that. Please pay attention to that. Take advantage of the opportunities offered there. Okay. I want to turn this over to Pat, and he can talk about the EDGE program. Pat?
Well, I always like the idea of a town hall meeting because it brings these images of quaint New England towns gathering together in the height of democracy to discuss and debate issues. The truth of the matter is that they were fairly frequent sources of fistfights and actually draw to mind Plato's observation that democracy is ultimately mob rule. So let me talk a little bit about the EDGE program and say up front that I don't think I've done a very good job of communicating about this. I hope to remedy some of this. The EDGE, as you can see up there, stands for 4 different things. It's a very clever acronym, which leads you immediately to the conclusion that it was not written by me. Tricia Scherer and Tanya Weingart get the credit for putting that together. This is very much descriptive of who we are, and I really think that we do live up to these things: education in the Jesuit tradition, development of God-given talents, growth of intellect, culture, and global perspective, engaged spirit, and sense of purpose. So by putting this new acronym out there, we are certainly not intending to say that there's anything wrong or inadequate with what we're doing. What we're hoping to do is to build on some of the progress that we've had in the past. Now, let me tell you how this got started. As early as 2003 or 4, as law dean, I got frustrated with the fact that we were constantly bemoaning our complexity and not doing enough to take advantage of it. So my initial thought was that we would come up with a financial aid packaging strategy where we would incent students to stay at Creighton to finish their ultimate degree. And interestingly enough, about 90% of Creighton students say that a bachelor's degree is not going to be their last degree. And that's much higher than the national average. And it's not surprising given the array of graduate and professional programs that we have. So I felt that that was a good opportunity. We ran some focus groups through our enrollment consultant, Human Capital, and it proved that I'm a parent and not a student because this idea sold pretty well with parents and it got no traction with students at all. Because when you're 17, 4 years seems like an eon and 8 years seems like an eternity, and people didn't want to be, quote, locked into staying at the same university. What it did reveal, however, was that we had some real opportunities. Students in this context were looking for more experiential learning. They said things like, we understand if we're going to be a doctor, we have to take cell biology. We understand if we're going to be lawyers that maybe some political science background is good and so on. But we want to see what those people actually do. And we had a pretty successful model in terms of the PMed program that has been launched. Now, since then, there have been some, I think, well-taken concerns by faculty, and I've heard them, that this seems as though we're trying to load a lot of extra things on faculty. Let me assure you that that's not the case. And anything that's going to involve anything that's curricular or anything that will touch on faculty workload, we're going to have a thoroughly shared governance process where we talk about those things. So what we've decided to do is to launch what I hope are a couple of important but modest steps today. At the cabinet and dean's meeting I asked for, and we did invest some money out of our strategic investment fund to do what I think are some important things. One thing we heard loud and clear from the students, and we've heard this loud and clear from our alumni too, is they would like more interaction with each other. We're really good about asking our alumni for money, and we've been very successful at that. But what they want and what students want is some interaction with alums who would be in their fields. So what we're looking to do is to create a position that would direct mentoring and shadowing opportunities. It would work with the academic departments to look for appropriate mentors for students, appropriate shadowing opportunities, work with, and if you haven't met our new VP for University Relations, Rick Virgin, I hope you meet him soon because I think he's going to be terrific for the university, but work with work with Rick's operation to try to hook students up with potential mentoring and shadowing opportunities. Another position is one that's actually being repurposed. It's not a new line, but it's being slightly enhanced, and it would do more in terms of extending the kind of information that we get out to pre-medical students to students who are interested in other programs. So somebody who could pass along information, help to coordinate things related to advanced studies and academic advising. We do have some money in there for graduate assistants to help with this. And finally, I asked for some money to be given directly to the undergraduate schools, nursing, COBA, and arts and sciences, so that they can do more to support their faculty in terms of advising, because we all realize that that's a very time-consuming endeavor. Now, one of the elephants in the room is how this is going to affect the Ratio Studiorum program. We're all very proud of the Ratio program. What we're doing is not trying to get rid of it, but trying to build upon it. Frankly, I don't have all of those details worked out. I have a meeting with Dick Super, I think, tomorrow, which I was trying to hold off on until I was sure where the funding would be on that. And I want to talk with Dick and work with the Ratio board in terms of how to best move forward what's been an incredibly successful program. This is building on a tremendous amount of hard work. I think of all the people in student life, all the people in health sciences, all the people in academic affairs that have built this university to be the kind of place that you'd want to send your children to. And I've had 3 kids go to Creighton, and I've got 1 here still. And so I really believe in what we do. So I think the edge is, it's going to start out maybe a little more slowly than I'd envisioned at first, but we're going to make, I think, incremental and important steps that are going to help this university be an even better place. And I only have 1 slide, so that's the end of it. Thank you very much.
Pat just stole my line. I only have 1 slide, too. And I'm very much aware that I am the last speaker, and I am between you and Q&A, and I bet there's lots of questions in the room today. And then there's this little thing called a reception afterwards as well. So I will keep my comments brief, but just want to thank you all for being here today. And it's great to bring ourselves together as a community and have these opportunities to dialogue with one another. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Office of Equity and Inclusion, it's a new office on Creighton's campus. It's been in place since June 1, and I left my role in student life, 15 years working in the Division of Student Life, to take on the responsibilities that are outlined here, and I'm going to talk really briefly about them. But before I get into the kind of office structure, I wanted to give you some insight as to why we made this move now. For the past several years, I've been involved in student conduct, and in student conduct, we're seeing a lot more situations where we had students who'd been wronged in our community, that they were in some way being harmed by another person and not having the Creighton experience that we wanted them to have. And through those experiences and using our discipline process for students, we were finding things that process was really more focused on the student who may or may not have committed the inappropriate action towards the other student, but unintentionally, we really weren't doing a good job of taking care of our students. So a couple years ago, we added a student advocate, a person to work with our students who are experiencing some way of being wronged in our community to help them through the process. And then we got to talking about ways in which the whole Creighton community can do that better. So in a very brief synopsis, that's how we got to where we got today. A group of people got together and said, how do we live our mission more intentionally when we come towards times in our community where we aren't acting or an individual in our community isn't bringing their best self to the table, and how do we work to restore the individual who's been wronged? How do we help teach and do some corrective measures for somebody who might not be being their best self? And then how do we get to that? So we drew up a proposal for this office called the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And as I've tried to make sense of it in my mind, because in my head it makes a lot of sense, but when I'm talking to people, sometimes I get blank stares, I figured out a framework that seems to be working. And that's this notion of this 3-legged stool. The Office of Equity and Inclusion, when we talk about equity efforts, in a lot of ways we're talking about basic federal compliance around a lot of different federal legislation that's tied to funding, but is really fundamental to our mission as well when we talk about promoting and respecting the dignity of all persons. So when you talk about Title IX, we're talking about gender equality. Well, at Creighton, we already believe in that. We believe in the worth of every single person. So when we talk about things like the Americans with Disabilities Act or accommodating someone due to a disability. We already believe that, and we talk about that in our spirit. So how are we doing that? Are we keeping our eye on the ball with what the federal legislation is saying, but how are we also being true to our mission? So in that way, that's kind of the equity piece of my three-legged stool, as it makes sense in my head. When we go to the inclusion efforts, how are we going out in our community and educating one another about who we are as a community, about taking stands on issues and things along those lines? So how do we support people, and how are we proactive in our messaging? The other part of that stool is that victim advocacy and outreach. And initially, our victim advocate really was supporting our students on campus, but with this move to the Office of Equity and Inclusion under the part of the university known as the General Counsel, we are now providing support to everyone in our campus community. So that is an important aspect of what we're doing. And I saw Allison Taylor earlier, but she moved. So I was going to point, oh, she moved to the middle of the room. She's right there. So our advocate for campus is Allison, and she's sitting in the middle, turning red and embarrassed that I'm pointing her out right now. But that's part of our inclusion efforts, the proactive, but then when we're tested and someone's felt like they've been wronged in our community, the support mechanism. And then finally, the resolution efforts. And right now we have a university policy on harassment and discrimination, and it's a good policy, but it needs to be stronger. And that's something that I'm working on as far as with the people who have been involved in that in the past, and how we formally address situations that come to our attention that just leave people not feeling like they're getting to have the Creighton experience they came here to have. And the other piece of this is also centralizing reporting. So if we see issues or pockets on campus that may be facing some challenges, how do we get in there proactively? How do we respond to what's going on there? And how do we get to live our values better? So that's who I am and what I'm doing now, and that's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
So, about the provost, sir. You say you've got a lot of good candidates, and that's great. It seems to me likely that whoever the candidate selected is going to fit one of two profiles. Somebody who has a strong background in academic affairs but doesn't necessarily know a whole lot about running the clinical operations of a hospital. Or somebody who has a strong background on the health sciences side but doesn't necessarily have a lot of knowledge about doing undergraduate education. Are you willing to direct the person who's hired for this position to hire some kind of associate provost or something like that to help them with the part they're not so knowledgeable about?
Everyone heard the question? Could you please repeat that? Let me be brief. First and foremost, we are looking for a leader. That is so critical. We need to have somebody who can lead and bring about groups of great men and women to provide even a better education for our students. Will there be a deficit on one side or the other, as you point out? There may be that, yes. And if there is that, then how do we solve that? And I'm certainly open to your suggestion, but wouldn't want to say much beyond that at this point until we achieve that final candidate and see what those needs are. Because as you know, all leaders will readily admit, or should, readily admit those areas where he or she might be deficient and would need some help. And so I would think that we would have a conversation like that once the person's been named, and then move forward. But this is a very big cultural change for us. And if the person comes in on the health sciences side, then people on the academic affairs side might feel slighted, and vice versa. So I want to make sure that whoever we invite to join us, our provost, can be a leader to bring people together rather than letting people divide. Any other? The couple questions on the cards. The provost search, is it still open for candidate submission? No. The process has been, I think, very lengthy. Vicki Roach and the committee has been very good about inviting recommendations. At this point, it's unlikely, but at the same time, if there's somebody that comes along that is close to resembling Jesus Christ, we might want to consider. We might want to consider the person. So ideally, I want to be respectful of the process, especially the candidates who have really made themselves available and gone to the brink, so to speak, being candidates. So it's unlikely, but I wouldn't want to preclude that possibility. This is a question I'm going to direct. This is what I like about being president. There are a lot of people smarter than I am, and this is a question I'd like to direct to you, Bob, so you might want to use the mic up here, Bob It's addressed to me, but I'd like the Dean to first talk about this. Would you care to comment on the vote regarding the core curriculum taken in the Arts and Sciences Faculty Senate yesterday? And if you would, Bob, explain the vote, the background, and then...
Okay. Well, I'm going to do a little bit more background than that. Give me a microphone and a podium, and of course, it's my opportunity. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the process that we have here, and perhaps don't look at processes within academic affairs and the College of Arts and Sciences on an everyday basis, it might be interesting to know that the last time that a core curriculum was an attempted revision or a real revision was made was actually back in the early 90s, I think around 1992. Very typically, a core revision is a very lengthy process. This happens to be my third involvement in this in various universities, and I haven't seen one take fewer than 4 years to do. And so as we sort of began to look at this process, we scoped it out as perhaps about a 4 to 5 year process. And why does it take so long? Because I think one of the features of core curriculum is you invest so much in terms of trying to identify what is critical and central to your identity. I mean, we are a Catholic Jesuit university that has a long tradition of delivering the liberal arts within that tradition, and so that identity element is very critical. We also have a new cast of characters, very typically, who are involved in this. So we have a faculty. It's been 20 years since this process went through, and so we have another whole set of faculty, and we have changes within the academic professions that go on as well. And so a big part of the process was making the commitment to doing it, and the Faculty Senate of the College of Arts and Sciences did indeed make that vote and make that commitment back in the spring of 2010. We fashioned a committee. We did include representation from the College of Nursing, from the College of Business, and from University College, so that it was not a process that was existing alone within the College of Arts and Sciences. In the first year, I had listed at the beginning of this process what I thought to be some of the critical features of a core, and the number one feature at the top of the list is we are a Catholic Jesuit university, and so our core must reflect that identity element. But there are a number of other things that have existed within the learning process in that period of time. That is greater articulation about how it is that we provide student learning opportunities. And one of those features is that we have begun to assess our programs using learning outcomes. Most of the time, most of the existing programs, and certainly that was true of our old core, we had a core curriculum in which we had sort of overlaid learning outcomes over that. That is, that the learning outcomes were not definitional to what exactly was to be delivered. And so this was an opportunity really to construct a core based on learning outcomes. And so in the first year of the program, the faculty met, and I think there have been a series over the 2.5 years of the effort so far. There's about approximately 12 open faculty meetings in which people were invited to participate. And in the course of the first year, we're able to fashion 74 learning outcomes that actually align with the 7 learning outcomes of the College of Arts and Sciences and the 6 learning outcomes of the university per se. A second year of the process has really involved identifying a structure. And one of the critical features within a structure, and again, this is back to some of the new learning that's occurred in the new ways of conceptualizing, is that we want to identify not just a broad-based general education. That's the old Harvard general education model that was espoused in 1945. Exposure to a lot of different things, called the Gen Ed approach in a lot of places. But in a Jesuit university, we especially favor or prefer hierarchies of learning. That is, how does early learning form the basis for later learning to occur? And so what we wanted to look at were hierarchies. So within the learning outcomes, there are introductions, there are reinforcements, and there are levels of proficiency represented. Likewise, in the design within the second year of the program, there was indeed an effort to identify what would be essentially foundations, that is the things that you need to learn early on, explorations, which is further using those foundational skills to actually further explore learning. And then finally, integrations at the tertiary level. So that brings us to this year, and one of the processes was to try and identify a workable number of hours. We had a lot of feedback from students that they would like to see, of course, the core smaller than it existed. There are also some curricular pressures in various programs. I think probably our most challenging program has been education in terms of being able to achieve or accomplish a degree program in 4 years. We pride ourselves in being able to finish, a student being able to finish a degree in 4 years. And so how do we construct a core within 128 hours that gets a student out the door in 4 years? To reference Father's question about the vote yesterday, one intermediary step. About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a convocation of the deans of nursing, business, me and arts and sciences, our associate deans, and the members, the two leaders of the strategic planning process, Kevin Graham and Holly Harris. And in that meeting, we identified what would be approximately something that would be a university core. And the numbers are not fixed. I mean, that's the thing I would suggest to you. But we sort of looked at something that could be around, let's say, 36 hours. Then the expectation was that each college would indeed add some of their own, definition of who they were, their identity elements. So business would add some hours to that, arts would add some hours to that, nursing, et cetera. The vote yesterday was an effort to really identify a working number within the College of Arts and Sciences set of this. And I was there for the first part of the meeting and then had to go over to a lecture in Lincoln, so I missed the conversation. And so this is sort of hearsay that I'm sharing back with you. It was a very close vote. I think the vote was 26-23. Does that sound right for somebody who was there? Yeah. No, the first vote, Holly. 26-22. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to wrap up. So anyway, the issue, I told you I love a podium.
It's the president's convocation.
This is extemporaneous, so the vote was essentially, what number shall we use, 52-49, and I think the summary of that vote was a lower number than a higher number, and so that's, I think, what the reference question was about. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, the good news is we just all got 3 credits. The other piece of news is, I guess as long as I live and breathe in this position and I have anything to say about it, we are not gutting theology and philosophy at this university.
All right, thank you. I certainly, on my part, I will want to make sure, at least when this comes to my approval, that this revised core reflects our mission as a Jesuit Catholic university. And if it doesn't do that, in my opinion, then I'll ask for further reconsideration on the part of the College of Arts and Sciences. But my thanks to Kevin and Holly. Stand up. We want to thank you for this great leadership. Just a quick question. I think that Mr. Berkey's got a few. This question, isn't the December 11th reception right during finals week? It is, yeah. Wouldn't that be inconvenient for faculty and other departments? We'll take a look at that. The thing is, we want to have a Christmas party or a holiday party close to Christmas. We want to make sure faculty are still here. And, I would think that a little break with some libations might be attractive for faculty and staff. But if people really have some concerns about this, then we'll try to take a look at that.
Okay, I've got a number of questions here. A couple of them are very similar. It's related to the space in the Bernardi Center. I think we may have a land rush underway that hasn't been spoken for. No, at this point, one of the things that we want to make sure we do is look at the opportunity to use that space the best way possible for ideally an academic program and ultimately something that's going to provide for growth opportunities for the institution. So we need to take a look at that, and we will be looking at various alternatives, but We have not settled on a use at this point. Keep going here?
Yeah, a couple. Any questions from the floor?
Are you moving the basketball hoops and there's currently wellness?
No. Nope, sorry, the basketball hoops will go. The athletic facility is, the question is about why the location being in a prime spot on the campus as opposed to, somewhere maybe north of the existing Ryan Center. And we had a lot of discussion about the site and what would be the best. And really, when we went back and looked at the overall campus master plan, the intent was to create an athletic recreation district and the adjacencies between the buildings, especially activities that would occur in both this practice facility and the Ryan Center, as well as for the soccer program. It just made a lot of sense from that perspective to have it located in that spot. But we did certainly look at a number of locations before settling on that one. There's a short one here. Can spouses be allowed to use Simply Well if they're on the health plan under family or spouse coverage? And the answer is currently no, that is not available. That may be something we would want to look at to extend to additional participants going forward.
There are a few more questions up here, but perhaps we can answer those via email to the community. Any other, because I want to be respectful of people's time. Any other questions from the floor? Any pressing question?
One question about regarding the use of classroom and meeting space in the Harper Center once the construction starts and the disruptions begin. And there's been a lot of coordination working with student life, particularly relative to events and activities that were scheduled in the building, and we'll also be working with the registrar's office and others on the class scheduling. So there's going to be a bit of a juggling act, but we're working through that process to make sure that we can accommodate all the needs for the meeting seminars, events, and the classrooms. And there'll be some shifting back and forth between this facility, I'm sure, and Epley and others. So again, there'll be disruptions, but I think we have a pretty good plan for working through that process.
And I have a clarification on a communication I sent on September 27th about the School of Nursing in regard to their enrollment, where I'd indicated that it was down, where in fact it was up by 11, and they've met budget and beyond. So my thanks to Dean Howell and all of our colleagues in the School of Nursing. Please join me in thanking Tanya, Dan, and Pat for their involvement today. There will be a video of this town hall meeting available to you, as well as information to get to the link, and we'll try to answer some of the questions that were submitted but not answered at that link. And as you may know, there's reception following, so I hope you can join us. Reception is in Billy Blue, so for those of us down in the lower level, it might be helpful if we just exit that way, and we'll be first in line to get something to drink. Thank you, everybody.